Joining me today is a therapist and educator of truly international repute, having taught seminars on over 6 continents. I've had the pleasure of knowing Til. He first came up on my radar probably about 20 years ago, and I've been following his work and been very fortunate to work with him in the last couple of years, both at large seminars with Eric Dalton, and then by co-presenting a seminar here in Ireland. We're due to do a follow-up one now shortly. This coming November, fingers crossed that travel restrictions don't get in the way too much. But Til is a regular contributor to the Massage and Bodywork magazine. And he also has a podcast with another very well-known educator, Whitney Lowe. It's called The Thinking Practitioner. If you haven't checked that out, really do. I love the approach those guys take on that. And we're just going to bring Til in now and say hi. Hi, Til. How are we doing? Thanks for joining us today.
A pleasure, Aubrey. Good to be here. Hey, I didn't ask you, are we visual as well as audio?
We are both, yes.
All right.
I love your background, by the way.
Yes. Glad I combed my hair. Right, put up my background. Good, great to be here. And thanks for your intro. You've been busy, huh? You've been talking to some interesting people.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that a lot of the great luminaries of our industry have agreed to talk to me. Some I've interviewed, some I've yet to interview. Some of them I know very well. Some of them I know more by reputation that I haven't directly worked with, but I've communicated with a little bit. So it's a really exciting project. And I think it's something that people really need to hear at the moment, that we really want to focus on getting out very accurate. And I think positive information, but not in a way of, sticking our head in the sand, forgetting about the challenges that people are facing, the tragedy in some cases, but really thinking in any situation, there genuinely is something positive to be looked at. So not dismissing the challenges that people are facing, but looking literally forward to what can you do now? What's positive in your life at the moment? How is this even affecting you? So Til, that's one of the first questions I had for you. How is this affecting you, and what adaptations have you been making?
Well, I'll tell you about that, but just another kudos for you for doing this, because all the ways we can stay connected and hear what other people are up to, and then look at all these different perspectives and experiences are going to help. And how has this affected me? I mean, it was an interesting lead up into this current period where we had a large trip planned to Thailand early February. We're taking 45 people there for a breathing and bodywork retreat on a raft house out in the jungle there. And that's when the news stories about COVID first started to hit. And at that time, it was pretty much a Chinese story, pretty much thought of as something that was in Asia. But it was something we had to contend with and think, now, are we going to go ahead with this? At that time, again, none of us really knew much about it, but we did. We took 45 people out into the jungle in Thailand, and we were completely off the grid, and no internet signal, no cell phone signal, nothing, for more than 10 days. And so then as we're leaving this amazing experience where we're just doing body work and breathing and swimming and, wild elephants and all that kind of stuff, as we're leaving the jungle on the boats coming out of this huge lake, it came back into cell service. The phones and everything, start going off with people getting their texts and their Twitters and all their stuff coming in. And at that point we go, okay, so there's been some big things moving in the world, and things we're coming back to a different world than what we left in many ways. So that was quite a abrupt transition, you could say. But coming from that place of being really rested and resourced and having had a great time, it was actually, it allowed us to be kind of philosophical and think like, okay, so how do we really want to re-enter this story?
That's cool. I saw some of the promotional stuff you had. That place in Thailand looked like heaven on earth. It looked absolutely incredible. But what a reality to come back to, having been so secluded. And
Right.
It's interesting that you talk about that kind of like breathing and swimming and a kind of meditative practice, because I think one of the things a lot of people are looking at the moment is how to manage stress and their mental well-being. Is there any kind of daily practices you can share with us that you've been finding useful?
I'd say go to Thailand every day.
Excellent.
Yeah. And, we need like a little breathing retreat, at least a little one, on the raft every day. And so like Thailand as a state of mind has been my own practice. How could and it's remarkable. I can't even describe it to you, what it's like to be completely unplugged. For us, it's about 2 weeks. It's about a 2-week period in total.
Wow.
And I couldn't think back, honestly, on a time uh, during my son's lifetime, and he's 21, when I had been completely offline for 2 weeks. I go offline, I go out into the wilderness, I do different things, I do different retreats. But I think it's pretty rare for most of us to be completely off that long. So there's a whole different state of mind that comes in.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
definitely noticed that, taking time to do some daily breathing and meditation exercises. And I talk a lot
yes.
about just even getting out in nature, that it might even just be your garden, or if you're living in an apartment, getting out in your balcony, like just getting some outside interaction.
So
Uh,
important.
the better
Crucial.
the environment, Thailand sounds absolutely optimal. But for any of us, these kind of daily practices, I think we actually have
Yeah.
time to do, and it's a positive in some ways.
And getting off your phone. I mean, getting outside without checking your texts. It's hard because that's the medium by which we're connecting to so many things now, more than ever. And yet, I know a lot of people are getting really sick of it too. There's, a whole backlash happening against the Zoom phenomenon, having to be on Zoom so much, or having to be, you know, meeting or talking. So maybe that's what we're in the middle of, is like a kind of binge that gets us over our strange addiction with technology and the way that it inserts itself into every part of our lives. So really, I mean, the best thing that I'm doing for myself is taking time off of the device, and ideally several times every day. And this has been tough, but my wife and I used to be really good at this, is a whole day a week with just no connection. The reality has been a little harder lately to maybe we're getting the spirit of that. We do have some offline time that's really great, but some sort of time that's dedicated, so I'm not actually connecting more than to what my present experience is. So it's like hyper connection into the present by letting go of those kind of virtual connections
Yeah.
outside of
I
us.
think for a lot of people as well, it has been quite a creative time. I know I've spent a lot of time editing video that I shot ages ago, doing a lot of writing.
Yeah,
I know we were saying about you had written for Massage and Bodywork, and I
yeah.
read one of your recent articles on the cytokine storm associated with COVID-19. Now, I know that's a whole topic. Your article was superb. You covered this in the Thinking Practitioner with Whitney as well. You discussed this. But I wonder, is there any particular bits of information that around that you could share?
Well, you got me thinking in terms of the creative time, the disruption in our daily routines. Some people are more busy, but many people are less busy, and it does make time for that. And that was a topic I got to dive into. I have a particular interest in inflammation as a process, and as a manual therapist, how do we work with inflammation? And then I started getting news stories about COVID deaths being attributed to hyperinflammation, to having an out of control inflammatory response to the effects of the virus. Not even to the virus itself, interestingly enough, but it's almost like a chain reaction where the virus seems to be triggering off some effects in your immune system that you essentially get a kind of autoimmune response to. And your immune system just kicks into high gear. That seems to be what's responsible, at least for a number of the deaths involved.
Yeah, I've seen some information around that where they're talking about thrombosis and the problem with the blood not actually being able to circulate around the
Mhm.
alveoli, and even alveoli collapse that you talked about. And it really is quite a different kind of beast than we thought we were originally dealing with in some ways.
And I should say, we don't know. We honestly don't know. The more I read, the more I realize we're shooting in the dark, and some of our shots will have clearly hit. We may not know for a year or two or three, often too, what we can say reliably about what's going on. But this idea that it is our own immune system, it's our own inflammatory responses that get us in the most trouble, is really interesting and really useful to me, because that's actually what we deal with too as manual therapists. To every musculoskeletal complaint, almost, there's a couple exceptions, but almost every musculoskeletal complaint has an inflammatory component, at least if it's been around for a bit. So that's one of the exceptions. An immediate acute injury hasn't had a chance. If you're just right there with someone to get hurt, you're not dealing with an immediate inflammatory response. But even if you're seeing them later that day, you got the acute phase happening. So what you're having to work with in that case is, how do I pace the work and not make things worse? But then more typically, like people that come in with an ongoing complaint, something that's been there for a while, there's an inflammatory mechanism at work that keeps things irritated, keeps things sensitized, or keeps things sore. So
Yeah,
it's,
we talked about this before when you were researching for your article on inflammation.
yeah,
We were talking about
that's
the
right.
use of ice and things like that.
That's right.
And I thought that that was a really interesting, there was things I certainly didn't know about inflammation after so many decades in the business. That article, where could people find that, Till, if people are looking to read more about that inflammation article?
You know, right now it's on Massage and Bodywork. It's in their library. I know they allow free access to that, but it's also it's going to be on our blog page here soon. Maybe as soon as your listeners hear this. When do you know when you broadcast this?
I hope about a week's time. So,
Okay, yeah, good
uh,
chance that it'll be on our website, just under the blog or the podcast menu on our website.
okay. And Till's website is advancedtrainings.com. Advanced, how do you describe
Hyphen,
underscore hyphen?
yeah, dash, advanced-trainings.com.
Yes. So definitely a lot of good resources there. There's some stuff I noticed as well that I see a lot of practitioners together. This is one of the things I've noticed is people coming together and talking, not just in this kind of forum, but across disciplines and everything. And the thing I've seen a lot is practitioners sharing a lot of their work, putting on specific sales, aware of the fact that people's finances are challenged at the moment as well. So I see you've got some stuff available as well, Till. If you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, thanks. You triggered my memory. That inflammation article is actually part of an ebook that comes with a course, and we have it marked down to $7.50 American.
Wow.
And so what is that, like €7 or so?
It's going to be 657 euro. Yeah.
650. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's been so important to just to keep putting information out. And we have free offerings. There's like a free course there on stress you can go do. And we've marked the price down on everything because we don't know what's going to happen. And there's, my personal sense, Aubrey, is I'm actually optimistic in many ways, but we're not going to get into any kind of future without some pain along the way. So
Yeah. I think
I'm
that's
optimistic
becoming quite
about,
clear.
yeah, I'm optimistic about our profession. I'm optimistic about the practitioners I know and the ones that are working with me. But I think that there's very likely going to be some hard times between here and there. So in the spirit of that, yeah, we completely mark down everything quite a bit, and
That's
are just
fantastic.
doing a number of large events too that are either completely free or at very reduced cost.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed is when reaching out to some of the industry professionals, that people generally are pretty good about giving their time. And you have better access. They have more time to give at the moment. So that's another positive that I think a lot of people are getting access to these industry experts that they might never normally get to see in person. They, in some cases, might not have even heard of, that they are reaching different audiences through this collaboration, cooperation kind of time. And I think that's a fantastic thing.
In some ways, there's so much more connection and collaboration happening because one, our busyness has been disrupted. And two, we're getting better at these virtual connections, which are easier to come in and out of, for better or worse. Like tomorrow, I should mention the British Fascial Symposium. Tomorrow, I'm co-presenting with Julian Baker and Sue Hitzman on pain and fascia and the relationship between the two of those. So that's going to be a really fun conversation.
Excellent. How would people find that, Till? I'm aware of it. I've attended the
Yes,
symposium in the past.
I should.
I think
British Fascial Symposium. You probably just Google that. That's the quickest way. There might be a link on our site as well to that.
okay, but that's
But I
something that
know that
people can join in the
Mhm.
discussion, the lectures. Great.
Well, I know that their regular enrollment filled up, but there are other ways to join. So I wouldn't let that stop you. But so go to the site, British Fascial Symposium, put that in your Google search bar, and there's going to be a way to participate for
Good,
sure
good.
somehow. Yeah.
Excellent. So in addition to your ongoing projects and your really successful, really informative podcast, The Thinking Practitioner, is there anything else you're working on at the moment? Anything on your mind that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I mean, how big a list do you want? It's we got the events coming up. There's the summer colloquium. We're having an online. There might be a few people here locally, depending on the distancing measures in place at that time. But there might be people here come locally. But we're basically live casting a summer colloquium with myself and Whitney Lowe, and maybe some other guests too that are going to come in and talk about a topic of interest. I'm scheduled to come back to your part of the world late fall, both to Ireland, but also Switzerland and Poland and perhaps London. So I'm looking forward to that. Thailand, we are. it's it's so far off, it's even hard to imagine. But we're going back there in 2022. So those are the get-togethers planned. Now, like I mentioned, we're having all these special classes going on too. Like one of them is a Zoga class, which is this is a movement practice put together by Wojtek Kakowski, who's one of Tom Meyer's lead teachers, and he has his own movement practice. He's calling it Zoga, and he's tailoring. What's really fun is he and I are having a dialogue where he's tailoring it to our pelvis, hip, and sacrum class sequences. So he's giving essentially self-care movements and client movements following the same progression we use in our hands-on training. And
I've seen comments on that on social media and people saying, oh my God, this is amazing. Therapists going, oh, this has made such a difference to me because I can't get treatment at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's one of the most exciting things going on. And we did for that one, we just did a sliding scale, pay what you can, kind of in a range there, because we know so many people have the time and are not sure about money. Excellent. And then one more, doing lectures for all of 5 of our principal courses. We have 5 courses that cover the whole body, and they're intended for manual therapy, and they focus on techniques. But what we're doing instead online is I'm going through and I'm giving the theoretical, anatomical, strategic lectures behind each of those sequences. And then we're having a lot of live audience interaction and questioning around that, followed up by small groups with a faculty member where you dive in to the practice concepts behind this. We've had an enormous response. This current group has 150 people in it. And we're breaking up into, we break up into small groups every week. So it's small individualized discussions. And we're kind of tailoring this online learning process to have a rhythm that I'm really enthusiastic about. And it can never replace the in-person hands-on work, which is the essence of what we do. But what it's doing is it's giving a chance to dive into the theoretical, the conceptual, and actually the movement pieces that we do with ourselves. In that sense, the kind of kinesthetic or intuitive sides of what we do that really are the underlying foundation of doing good hands-on work.
Brilliant. Excellent. It's funny, I was talking to Anne Williams, I think I mentioned already, about her fantastic book, and it's so interactive, this e-textbook. And I think that is one of the positives, that it's challenging us to reinvent how we use technology. I think anybody in the manual therapy field would say that there are some skills that have to be learned in the classroom. You have to interact with a teacher, but there's so many other skills. There's so much that can be taught through many other mediums, through the likes of e-textbooks, e-courses, interactive webinars, all of those things. And the fact that these are, like you said, small groups that you can have a dialogue, it's not you being a passive learner, passive participant, just reading information, that you actually can get live feedback. It's great. Right.
And then some of the challenges traditionally with online learning is accountability. If it's so free that I can do it whenever I want to, do I actually get to it? So we're having the social support of a group going through it together and interacting a lot and asking constant conversation that really seems to be helping people stay on track with what they're doing. But I honestly think it's making us better as teachers too. I know you do a lot of teaching, and it's really making me get even clearer and precise in both the concepts I want to get through, and then also my use of learning modalities, because this medium is pretty visual. There's really cool slideshows you can do, screen shares, but to really have that percolate into the whole learner, that means we got to take it into their body. So I have to get even more intentional and purposeful and plan out ways that people can actually use this information, feel it, and experience it. Yeah. Well, that's definitely some exciting stuff to look forward to, Til. And great news about the British Fascial Symposium. Great to get the update on that. We'll get information out on that on our social media straight away, because that's going to maybe be happening actually before this video goes out. So we'll try and get word out on that. There you go. And that's true, right? You're broadcasting a week. I know they have recordings available as well afterwards. Yeah. Good to know as well. So if you do miss the actual live event, you can go onto their website, British Fascial Symposium, and access recordings afterwards. Because I know a lot of the presenters, I've either heard them talk or I know them personally. They've got great information. I recently bumped into Sue Hitzman in Costa Rica. There was just a changeover day between Eric Dalton's event and her event that she was running there. And we met in passing. And it was great to catch up with her again, having met her several times before. So I'll be chatting to her hopefully soon as well.
So lots of great presenters. I'd really encourage you guys to get on that and look at those recordings, because I think the great thing about those symposiums is you get a lot of people with their specialities coming together and sharing information, and there's definitely a synergy that takes place, and a lot of new kind of theoretical stuff. I mean, this field is always evolving. I'm sure you've had this experience still where you go to these things and you go, oh, well, wow, you know, with your experience, your knowledge and all the rest, you're always constantly surprised. There's a new angle, a new aspect to learning that we may not have come across up until that point.
Yes, that's true. That's right. The symposiums are amazing. And then to translate it into the online medium allows some new possibilities.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I think I like your emphasis. I know we're winding up here, but I was going to say, I love your emphasis on the positivity and the resources we have. And part of that, I mean, just hearing it from so many places, part of that is really acknowledging the difficulty that people go through too. There's like a way to include the fact that it's uncertain and it's scary and that people are actually upset and uncertain, and to make room for that, even in the time we're having to connect and dream and take care of ourselves, makes it all more real.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else in closing, Til, that you'd like to share with us?
I think that was it. That was my closing thought. Yeah,
yes.
It's like let's make room for it all. Let's be there with each other for it all. And you know, there's a long game here. You know, the short game was let's just stay inside and see if we can get this thing to go away. Well, we may do that, we may not, but there's going to be a long game here. So it's like we got to pace ourselves as if we were doing a marathon, or as if we were doing a long event, or as if we were living a life, because life is kind of like that too. It's like you can't just hold your breath and get through it. You got to breathe, you got to move, you got to be here and connect.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic, Til. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, to share your insight, and I hope people make use of some of the resources we've discussed. And hopefully we'll maybe have a follow-up, and we'll see how we get on from there. So thank you once again.
Yes, I look forward to crossing paths with you, Aubrey, in person or online, whichever comes first.
Great. Thanks very much, Til. Thank you.
Pleasure.